Alright guys, it sounds like we're currently missing one player who is Hancock, and it's possible we'll do a pickup with some S tier players, but I'll be discussing that with everybody in the channel here. So stand by, I'll be asking what we're going to do, but it's going to probably be different than the originally planned roster. Alright, so it sounds like we'll be doing a pickup match of sorts. We're going to be filling in for Hancock's missing slot, likely with either Trickster or Legendary Frog, although Legendary Frog did just go offline. So my guess is we'll be doing something that's not exactly the original roster of specifically because Hancock's missing. So I think we're going to fill in with either Trickster or somebody else of a similar caliber, and they'll be doing a mod or a match on a modded server, which is the competitive skirmish overhaul, which is basically Crusader 5's mod for the BLMM server. So I'm going to be relaunching my game and getting on that here momentarily. So we did hear back from Hancock just now. It sounds like he's going to be back late from work. And also, Wegnas is going to be late. Alright, so it's definitely going to be on the module, or the competitive skirmish overhaul mod, which, if I'm not mistaken, makes Cav a little bit less powerful. which is probably for the best with having cap players like Wegnas around. Gives everybody else a better chance to actually play the game. And besides that, now that Hancock is here, I think we're going to have the original rosters except for Wegnas, so let's see how that goes. Apparently, I think Unknown was missing 2 players, not just 1. Yeah, I'm still excited, but it might end up being a little bit different for the rosters here. We're currently arguing about the servers. So currently, we guys are missing. I'm gonna go ahead and enable a window capture so you guys can see the just who's in the chat right now. So currently, we're yelling about which maps are we gonna play and what. Yeah, I think we're deciding between a modded server of competitive skirmish overhaul, and now we're also arguing about the maps and factions. I think, which is weird because I thought that was all sorted out in direct messages beforehand. It sounds like we're gonna do. So Falcon Hunter is arguing in favor of Zana and Ikarion, which is that Greek Empire map. Hancock saying Trading Post. And then, let's see. All right, let me ask the password here. All right, I'm so glad that I don't have this. I, I'm so smart for not streaming this Discord audio. Somebody just came with a soundboard and like had some awful screaming sound. But we're currently discussing, and we still haven't figured out the maps. I think Falcon wants to play open maps. And so yeah. I think we're only missing Wegnas at this moment, but I'm gonna go on the server. The server is currently not quite functional. here's a preview, guys. I'll be going back to the standby page while I have to relaunch my game, possibly to get it to work. Okay, they are currently doing the pick ban on the maps. So Falcon and Hancock are arguing about factions in the map right now, and I'm getting on. Oh my god. Alright. So I am on the server here with Yoshie and Crusader. And I'm also muted right now. No, I'm not. I'm good. Sorry, guys. You can tell I was talking out loud when I thought I was muted. Okay. Anyways, I'm going to sit here. I'm actually not playing this at all, but I'm very bored because this, the map and faction selection has been ongoing for a little bit longer than I'd hoped. But, we'll see here. Now, people are leaving the channel. Let me go ahead and ask what's going on with that. Alright, so it sounds like we did have some guys drop off the channel. And not because they're canceling the game, but because they're going to have a different channel for negotiating the pick ban system, the maps and factions. So that's not an entirely unique thing for Bannerlord, so you guys probably all have some familiarity with that idea. I'm just going to be dueling on Cav while I wait for these guys to figure their stuff out. So I think mostly Hancock and Falcon are deciding which, doing the pick bans on behalf of their respective teams. I think... Okay, so we got 13 people watching, and let's see. All right, so just to recap, guys, looks like we're still missing Wegnas on the one team, and they are going to have a last-minute substitution on Unknown. Alright, so that's actually proof that I'm good at Cap because I killed Crusader 5, even though I'm not in the match. I am just running around in the warm-up phase while we're waiting for the pick ban and stuff is ongoing, and a server I don't have access to, so just stand by on that. Let's see. Let's go to my DMs. I'm missing any DMs. Okay, so we have most of Unknown on the server currently on Sturgia. I have to mute myself in Discord because I'm unable to hold a conversation and ramble at the same time. So I think, let's see, was that the draw? Sounds like, yeah, there's no actual map selected yet. I was expecting, and sorry that this is a little bit of a surprise. My impression was that Falcon Hunter was going to, and not Falcon specifically, but my impression was that Forsaken and Unknown would have done their pick ban in direct messages beforehand. It sounds like we're doing that, you know, at the start of the stream. So that's certainly going to delay the start time, unfortunately. Looks like we have most of Unknown already on the server, which is great. Chowski, Dumpling, Yoshie, Hancock, SteveWang, and then on Empire, which is fighting with Forsaken, you got Crusader 5. So I'm going to speak a little bit about the players. I'm not, you know, to be honest, entirely familiar with the entire roster on every single individual player. I can say that all these players are extremely high tier players across the board, and I think the main person who's going to be missing today is going to be Wegnas. But on Team Unknown, the original roster was going to be Chowski, Dumplings, Hancock, whose name I misspelled. Oh my gosh. I might have misspelled Hancock's name in the description. Let's go ahead and fix that right now before anybody notices. Had an extra C in there. It was Hancock, not Hancock. So we did just change that, and hopefully that update to the description doesn't break this stream. Anyways, so very impressive combination of players on both teams. I can't really say enough about how good the roster is on each side. So, Chowski, fantastic at Cav and Infantry. I don't know if he plays Archer. He probably does on occasion. And Dumplings is a fantastic Archer. I presume, you know, at least decent Infantry. And I think I've seen him pretty good on Cav. Like, probably not at the same tier as Trickster or Wegnas, but, you know, could hold his own if he had to, especially in a normal lobby. And what else? I misspelled Hancock's name entirely. Still actually spelled wrong with an extra K in there. Now it's finally fixed, if anyone was wondering. Hancock is one of the best archers in the game, also considered one of the best callers for strategies in a skirmish match, in terms of, you know, where to go, pathing, whether to retreat, when to loot, that kind of stuff. Definitely it's widely considered to be one of the best at that. I'm going to go ahead and, you know, try to get some cab kills while I wait for the remaining Forsaken guys to join. And SteveWang, I haven't played with him very much, but my impression is he's pretty good at Cav. I have not seen him play anything else, but I'm sure he's decent at Cav. And then Yoshie. I think Yoshie recently was one of the winners of a 3v3 group fight tournament. And, I mean, I think there was some shenanigans, not by Yoshie, but there were some problems at tournament, and so I won't, like, speak too much about that. I'll say there's maybe some questionable aspects of fairness in that. But nonetheless, Yoshie, along with Gavin and the other person I forget, was one of the winners of a 3v3 infantry group fight. Definitely a good player, obviously, since there was, you know, actual attendance there with some very skilled players. And very solid guy. On infantry, I think he's pretty good on Cav. I don't know if he plays Archer at all, to be honest. I'm not that familiar with him personally. I know he's a long-term player. I've not been, you know, in the competitive scene until relatively recently, like the past 12 months. So some people who are well known, I'm not as intuitively familiar with them, which is more about, you know, me and less about them. So that's all the Unknown guys, with the notable point that Wegnas is not showing up today. Wegnas is basically the best NA cap player right now. He is missing, and he's going to be substituted by Scrickster, who is also one of the best NA cap players. Very good. Tough to deal with. I've got plenty of past VK matchmaking streams where he's kicked my ass, and I'm not too bad on Cav, so he's solid. On Forsaken's team, we got Ambxdia, or Am, and very solid on Cav and Infantry. Tough to deal with. Not going to be an easy match for Scrickster, or whoever else they will have on Cav. My guess is possibly Chowski. If I'm going to be guessing about the roster on Zana, I'm betting definitely Hancock on Archer, probably with that Battanian perk to do damage against mounts. It's going to be tough for Cav to deal with that. Could shut them down very effectively. I'm not sure if they're going to have 2 Cav if they have Hancock on Archer. It wouldn't surprise me. This is often played as a 2 Cav map. But that's just my guess, is Unknown. I mean, even Dumplings is a very solid archer. I mean, they could even do a 2-2-2 here if they wanted to. I mean, I'm not saying that they should, but it's if they have a roster that has a skill set where they have that as an available option on Botania right now. That's the unknown guys. It sounds like they are still arguing about, you know, last-minute substitutions. There's some disagreements about how fair those are. You can see that in chat ongoing currently. So that's the rundown of the unknown roster. Basically, a very balanced roster in terms of having multiple players who can hold their own on infantry, archer, and cavalry. And I think that, by contrast, Forsaken doesn't quite have the same archer roster. So Hancock's like one of the best, and Dumplings is very solid in archer. I'd say, like, I'm not sure if he's not archer main, but I think he plays it quite a bit. And on Forsaken, you have Am, who's very solid in cav and infantry. I'm sure he can probably hold his own on archer, but I don't think it's one of his main things. But I'm not too familiar with him, so I could be mistaken there. Chains is just really good at infantry and cavalry both. I can hardly get in a single round on Chains when I'm doing. Like today, I fought him twice, maybe 3 times. And it was like maybe 2 3-0s and 1 3-2, and I was very happy with getting 2 rounds at him. It's pretty... I usually struggle to get 1 round on him on Cav. And then Crusader 5 is one of the best infantry group fighters and duelists. I think he's not bad on Cav either, and he's also pretty mean on archer. But I don't think it's one of his main things. I think it's mostly going to be on inf. And what else? So, Falcon is one of the best Cav players NA right now. He is also on Forsaken's roster right now. And he's also currently arguing with the unknown players about just everything. Which maps, which teams, which factions, that kind of stuff. And for our last couple guys, we got Noteglow on Forsaken. Noteglow's very solid. I think he's improved a lot in the past year. He's one of the best duelists individually on infantry. He's not bad on Cav, but he's not really... Like, in a normal lobby of, like, relatively average players, he'd be good on Cav, but, like, versus these players, I don't think that he would be seriously considered to play Cav. And who else? Last person on Forsaken's roster was supposed to be Magic, who is very good in Cav and infantry both. Don't know if he plays archer or not. So, sounds like we are still sorting out some arguments about how many calories people are eating today, and something about, I don't know. Let's see. All right. So we are super late in starting, unfortunately. So apologies for that. And let's see. Falcon asked me to go spectator, which I have done. So since we're missing one last player, I'm going to ask where's our last guy. And I think Magic is spectating but drinking something. He's got to finish his drink before he starts. Alright, a question in the chat from Roman. Why did I miss my clan event for this? The answer is that it's PB, and I don't care that much about PB. Sorry, Roman. But it was just a PB event. No big deal, to be honest. Alright, so just going to spectate, then I know Chowski. It's Crusader 5 down. I guess his Dumplings probably doesn't play Cav in this event. Alright, so for, let's see, Forsaken's roster. Oh, we're all in? We're going to start? Oh my god, we're ready. We're ready to start. That was not a bump step, I don't think. That was just a regular stab from Dumplings. So we're starting in 22 seconds. Exciting. Let's see here. Okay. Let's make sure. Do we have game audio? We got game audio, we got my audio, so I think we're all set here. We got 18 viewers on the stream. Starting in 5 seconds. It's going to be an exciting first match. Let's make our guesses about the roster. Definitely going to be Noteglow on infantry, possibly I'm going to say probably Falcon and Chains on Cav. It could be Falcon and Magic on Cav, because Chains is just so good at infantry, but definitely Noteglow on infantry is my guess. And I'm guessing Hancock on Archer, definitely, who else? Strixter on Cav. I don't know who else is going to be on Cav. Alright, so we got Strixter's on infantry, Hancock's on Archer, SteveWang's on Cav, and Chains is on Cav, and Falcon's on Cav. So I was a little bit off my guesses. I figured Chains could go either way. Chains is very good on Cav and very good on infantry. And I was just thinking, you know, Chains is probably so much better on infantry than Magic. I mean, Magic's very solid in infantry, but I think that a lot of people don't compare to Chains on inf. So that was a good bump stab by SteveWang. That was another nice stab by SteveWang. He takes a nasty hit from the other Cav player. Let's see how this fight's going. So Archer's getting attacked by the Cav. Can't really shoot right now. But he's still up and he's still distracting Cav. The fight's definitely going in favor of Botania right now. It seems. 3 infantry up versus 1. The Cav could still do some damage. The Botanian Archer is still up, so that's really important for the Archer to be alive right now. He's going to be able to knock out the Cav. And that Pikeman saved the Archer. The Pikeman trickled in, which is a technique. It's kind of risky, but saved the Archer from a surprise stab off to his right. That was pretty useful. And now Second Life's on Vlandia are getting knocked out already. They trickled in, which seemed to be an unforced error. I don't know why one guy was way off in front of the rest of his team. SteveWang gets knocked out by Chains there. Chains is about to get knocked out, I imagine. I'm surprised if Chains gets away without being dismounted, but that's landing Cav off to right side here. His horse has got to be very low. And, I mean, this is just easily Botania's round right now, which is going to be the Unknown team. So Unknown's going to win this first round, I imagine. It's going to be hard to lose at this point in the match. I think we have Strixter with the wearing the same character as Less is More. So that's pretty identifiable right there. And that is the first round in favor of Unknown. Let's go ahead and increment the scoreboard here in a second. Team 2, that is. +1. Round win for Unknown. There we go. All right, next round starting in 5 seconds. Let's see if there's any compositional changes here. So, Vlandia just lost a round, and they have just Falcon on Cav, no Chains. So they did mix up their composition a little bit. I'm guessing Chains might have a Spear. It's something that Chains does a lot on the VK matchmaking server. So, Hancock, Stone Archer. I think the same composition, SteveWang on Cav, Hancock on Archer, Dumplings on Infantry. Fight's about to start here on the same flag, that is C. This is Zana as a reminder. Archer's immediately engaged in melee, but I think Hancock can hold his own. Infantry's trying to help the Archer so he can pull back and shoot. It's not a great position for him to be in, but I think he's doing okay. Fight's kind of dispersed and stretched out. Cav's dismounted, that's Falcon. Infantry's running away from Falcon, who's a lot slower, being he's a cavalry class. He's dismounted. He gets knocked out with that very slow mace. It's hard to do well in an infantry fight with the Vlandian Cav mace. It's just so slow. Unknowns looks like they're going to win this round again. I mean, they won that first fight very handily, and a lot of these guys seem to be relatively undamaged, so I think this is going to be... It's going to be tough to pull back for Vlandia / Forsaken at this point. And I think the main thing of, you know, possible disagreement in terms of fairness would be the balance on the roster for Unknown. They did substitute in Strixter for Wegnas. I wouldn't say that Strixter is so much better than Wegnas that it's an unfair substitution, so I don't think that factor would really throw off the balance here. But, you know, as always, there's usually something to complain about whenever you have one of these high-tier matches. Is like something about the timing of the match, when it's scheduled, who can show up. There's always some sort of problem. I mean, Vlandia would have to have a flawless fight here. They're going to win, probably. But they'd have to win flawlessly to win the round. Because these are their second lives. Britannia is still in their first lives here, and they're doing a lot of damage. I don't think that Forsaken's going to pull this through on this round. And then SteveWang knocks out Magic. Am I totally confused? I was totally wrong. Those were actually the second lives of Britannia. I was completely mistaken. Oopsies. Well, bad calling on my part. Apologies for the mistaken forecasting here. This is going to be actually really tough for... I think Britannia loses this round. So that makes it a 1-1. Alright, so on the scoreboard, we have SteveWang, their cav players on top. Crusader 5, you know, I guess what's notable to me, usually you see cavalry players, archer players tend to be at the top of the scoreboard. And Hancock is, you know, that's bearing truth for Unknown with SteveWang and Hancock on top. That's their cav player and archer player respectively. No compositional changes on Unknown. Whereas... comp, yep, I think same thing on both teams. No comp changes. But Falcon is not really scoring as high as we might hope for the cav player. I mean, he's not doing badly, but 366 score for a cav player. You'd usually expect, like, bare minimum, at least 200 score per round for the cav player. You know, Falcon not taking the cavalry duel with SteveWang, let him in cap A, and then Steve goes to push the heavy cav. You know, I personally don't enjoy fighting, in skirmish. I don't enjoy dueling as heavy cav, but certain players can do it. I'm not really one of them. I think that Falcon kind of whiffed that stab, did about 10 damage there. Archer is immediately engaged in melee and not able to shoot the cavalry. And Falcon is dismounted. It's going to hurt Forsaken a lot. Pretty even fight. I don't think anyone's gone down yet. First person to go down is Falcon. Which is maybe the least bad person to go down, because he can trickle back in on a second life, which he may or may not do. Scrixter respawn Cav, which is interesting now that they have 2 Cav on Titania, which is Unknown's faction. So, relatively clean fight for Unknown here. Actually, 3 of those guys did go down. They still have 3 first lives. And the Archer could stay up throughout this whole fight. He missed that shot on Falcon, who's second life. Falcon's probably going to want to go in, but with 2 Cav players on Britannia and an Archer, he got punished super hard for that. That's something that's very risky. He's got only 1 Cav versus 2 Cav and an Archer. You know, usually Cav player who wants to be aggressive, they want to trickle in their second lives, they want to help their first lives do damage, and he can't even be in the vicinity of the area. These 2 Cav and an Archer on a tiny map, it's just hard to be in that area. Dumplings got knocked out by an infantry there. I think he killed somebody. Was it the Archer before he went down? I think it was the first life Archer that got knocked out by Falcon, and then he got immediately jousted by an infantry. Like probably an upswing or a stab. Yeah, Vlandia's down. 4 guys right now. 1 left. So that's another round for Unknown. Well played. All right, so I think that, let's see, Chains is on top of the scoreboard, followed by Crusader 5 on Vlandia / Forsaken. We got SteveWang and Hancock still on top of the Unknown side. Next round starting in 2 seconds. So any compositional changes, they went the same comp. Falcon is now on light cav because he doesn't have the eco for heavy cav. And SteveWang still on cav. Hancock on Archer. I think it's got to be kind of frustrating to be Falcon, because Falcon is a very good cav player. Probably, I would guess, a better cav player than SteveWang. But playing, like, SteveWang and Scrixter at 2v1 as Falcon, it's going to be hard to do damage in that scenario. And it's going to be hard to do damage when you're getting shot by an Archer who almost never misses his shots, like right there. Another shot that was perfectly timed block by Falcon. I think he was baiting the shot to the rider by waiting to block at the last minute. which is something that's easy to not even notice is happening, but I think is a conscious strategy. Oh, with the archer getting, I mean, with the cav getting knocked out so quickly by the archer, he just can't get any damage in right now. I mean, he's an extremely skilled cav player, and he's just not able to perform very well under the watchful eye of Hancock, who just does not miss his shots right now. And I think that Falcon was trying to hide behind that barrier and still got a pretty nasty shot in. Okay, this is the second fight here. Yoshie goes down on Unknown. Falcon tries to ambush the archer and still gets dismounted. It's got to be frustrating. Cav is going to help the archer. It's going to be tough for Falcon to knock out Hancock under those conditions. The Valandian infantry is doing okay, but Falcon's going to get knocked out here, most likely, versus that 2v1. And he goes down. So, most of the Battanian first lives are down, but some of them still have lives. Shot in the back knocks out an infantry. Hancock is still first life and playing very aggressively. That was a crazy good shot in the leg from Hancock. Super close range, 3 targets, lots of pressure, and he still landed that. Yeah, actually, I just noticed, good point to Antidote in the chat here, that Am is missing. I didn't realize that that's the Forsaken roster. So, Forsaken is missing a couple of their better players, and I don't know if they're substitutes for quite on the caliber as Trickster, who's subbing in for Unknown. It's actually a 3v3 right now. I thought that Britannia was going to only be losing their first lives, but they did not. Why? I'm so confused as to why so many people are telling me to hold tab. Guys, we're on a 30-second delay, so probably by the time that you tell me to hold tab, it'll no longer make any sense. But, I'll try. I'll try to hold it down as much as I can. Alright, so I think we're on to the second half here. We're going to keep the same map and factions and move on to swapping teams. So, we'll have a chance for Forsaken to play. Let's go to encrypt the scoreboard. We'll have a chance for Forsaken to play in Britannia and for Unknown to play. And I just realized I've not adjusted the icons this whole time. I apologize for that. The faction icons were not correct this whole time. So let's adjust the scoreboard. Gonna have, for the first half, just now, we had Forsaken on Valandia. They'll be moving over to Britannia. And then Unknown was on Britannia. They'll be moving over to Valandia. So we had the icons for each team were not quite correct. Yeah, I just noticed that. Yeah, so anyways, we're going to be fighting on the second half here. I'll adjust the scoreboard to reflect that. You'll see it go from first to second on that little dark blue icon there, or indicator. Okay. So every player's loaded in here. Imagine we're going to start pretty fast. No need for a break at this point, I imagine. Forsaken is ready. Sorry, Unknown is ready. And so is Forsaken. Alright, so we're starting our next round in 15 seconds here. So, I imagine that Hancock will still be on Archer, except the crossbow, also known as the AR-15 in this mod. Actually, well, this is the modded version of the game. I'm not sure if that's as true, to be honest. I imagine it's still pretty powerful. All right, starting in 5 seconds, and everyone's still here. Let's see what the composition is going to be for each team. Okay, so only Falcon on Cavalry for Britannia, which is going to be Forsaken at this point. And we have Hancock not an Archer, kind of a surprise to me. Scrickster and SteveWang on Cav for Vlandia. So we have a cavalry duel between the Barding Vlandian Cav. They both went Barding. I guess they're anticipating a Britannian Archer. I'm curious to see if they don't take Barding on Vlandia in subsequent rounds. So the Vlandian Cav both have that slower, less agile horse, but it's perfect to prevent those Britannian Archer classes, the Fian, with that little mounted perk from knocking you out in 2 shots. But, let's see here. It's seeming that the fight's going in Vlandia's favor this time. Which is unknown at this point. As in, the team is unknown. Not the outcome is unknown. So yeah, Vlandia slash unknown is definitely winning this by a pretty significant margin right now. Good first round for them on this half of the map. It does look like they're up by 2 rounds. They're probably going to be up by it, and Falcon knocks out Scrickster there. He goes his first life. Misses the bump stab versus that infantry with just a club. That infantry is in trouble there, potentially. Are both landing cav coming in, doing some damage. The pike could be a problem for them. There's Yoshie knocking out, bumping. I'd say rearing Falcon's horse there. Falcon's horse is probably kind of low at this point. This seemed like a very strong start for Vlandia, but it's actually a 3v4 at this point. I think Falcon's about to get dismounted and probably killed. That was closer than I anticipated to a significant degree, but I do think that Unknown is kind of pulling away and taking the lead here. They're at 4-1 currently with that round win. Alright, so I'm going to hold tab now. So, Scrickster is at 447 score on Vlandia, and Falcon's on 410 on Britannia. Again, Scrickster is subbing in for Unknown because they're missing a player. The next round is starting in 3 seconds. SteveWang is next on the team on Vlandia, their second cav. They actually dropped a cav for Vlandia this round, and I'm curious if any Archer on Britannia. There's not. We have Chains and Falcon. That's the first time we've seen Chains on cav, I think, since the first round. Maybe there was 2 rounds where he's on cav, but it was not for most of them so far. So that's a compositional change for Britannia. Britannia has very good cav, so I think putting Chains on cav is not a bad idea. He can definitely hold his own, and without Hancock around to knock out their horses just almost immediately, they have a real chance of doing some damage here. Right, I think the first fight is about to start here. Let's see how it goes. Okay. I think Vlandia's a little bit up in this fight, but it's kind of hard to tell. We still have at least 3 infantry up on each team, although I think that changed right as I was saying it. Alright, Britannia is losing this fight by, not a ton, but by a little bit. I think that Chains about to get knocked out there almost. So I think that Vlandia won that, not by a drastic margin, but certainly by a not insignificant one. Okay, so we have Cav dismounting. They're switching horses, probably because one of them is second life and one of them is first life, is my guess. Hard to tell. Okay, that's it. Was an important kill. Was that a second life landing? Probably not. That couch lance from SteveWang almost killed somebody. Alright, now we have an archer. Hancock's now on the bow. Let's see what he can do here. He's about to get hit by the Cav. That was a good save from SteveWang, protecting his archer. Hancock was saved from a hit there, but it still goes down. So unknown. Sorry. So Forsaken on Britannia, they need to have a very clean fight here to have a chance at all. I'm not mistaken. No, actually, I'm totally wrong about that. That was their last lives. Let's hold on tab. So we got Trickster at 646 score on Vlandia, followed by SteveWang at 564, followed by Chowski at 496. Hancock's only at 101 and does have a team kill. Possibly not doing as well as I expected. But I think he could turn it around here. And then Falcon's at 737 score, followed by somebody whose name I can't pronounce at 475 score. Crusader 5's at 456. Chains at 444. Noteglow 278. Magic at 138. I do think it's just noteworthy that Hancock and Magic are both extremely skilled players and have, you know, relatively low scores, which I'm not saying to make fun of them, but I think it goes to the point that you could be one of the best players in the game, and when you're playing in a lobby like this, it's easy to not do a lot of damage. There's no easy pickings right now. So I think that's probably... who is that with a spear? Dumplings is going two-handed spear. Okay, so the Hancock knocks out Falcon. I think Britannia's not doing super well in this fight. So actually I have not incremented the scoreboard in their favor yet. They're actually 2-4. So all but one are last life on Britannia, and they have 3 first lives on Vlandia. I think Change is first life, is going to try to schizo the infantry, do some damage, and then reset here, it seems like. And Britannia does have morale, so it's not really a bad idea for Change to harass the infantry and keep them in spawn. SteveWang's getting killed by his own team to reset. Which is actually not great timing, because Britannia pushes into the perfect time before Steve has a lot of time to reset. And Chains is getting knocked out instead of resetting. SteveWang goes down right away. Falcon might have won the round for his team right there. Hard to say. I feel like Britannia was down there at the start, but I think they're turning it around. Yeah, that's kind of another upset to me, at least. That almost evens out the score. We're now at a 3-4 in favor of Unknown. Unknown kind of took the lead, broadened the lead, and now it's narrowing down again. Holding down tab, we got 9 seconds to the next round. SteveWang's at 840, Trickster's at 833, Chowski at 755 on Vlandia. And Britannia, we have 961 score for Falcon, Crypex is at 638, and Crusaders 5 is at 618. So the Cav is flying through middle on Britannia. And landing Cav is capping C. Falcon's capping A. Chains is capping B. And SteveWang's capping C. Chains is drawing the attention of the infantry. I don't think there's any archer around to distract him. So Hancock is back on infantry. He only played archer for 1 round. He got knocked out really fast, and I think that's not encouraging him to stay on archer. Falcon knocks out Scrixter, and then gets killed right away by SteveWang. Chains is still up on Cav. Chains just took out their other Cav player. Second Life Cav comes back in, which is Falcon, I believe, but not really needed there, and this is a bad spot for Second Life Cav to fight. So I think Botania's up in this round right now. Their first lives are fighting Vlandia in their spawn. Chains is still first life, so probably could have afforded to play a little more risky. I'm still I was not mistaken about that, just double checking. So I think because Chains is still first life, he's trying to knock out their Cav, but the Cav's running away. Which is what I would do if I was second life Cav versus Chains. The Chains is still first life, so are they going to wait for him to reset here? That's what I would want to do, but I'm not sure if they have the patience. So Chains does succeed in using his first life to knock out their Cav and dismount him. It seems that they are going to be fighting before Chains does reset. He might get dismounted very fast here if he had taken a lot of damage, which I'm not sure what his HP is at right now. Vlandia's not going down easily right now, but I think that they're going to still lose a round. So that actually evens the score. We now have a 4-4. And that is the second half in favor of Forsaken. And might be a little bit of a faction difference here, because it was a 3-1 in favor of Unknown when they were on Vlandia, and then it was the exact opposite when they switched maps, when they switched factions, rather. Okay, so I'm not sure the factions are changing here. Could be a random selection here. Currently looking like it's going to be Khuzait versus Empire, but I'm not sure if it's final or not. Okay. Well, this is Trading Post. One of the very nice native maps in Skirmish. Unfortunately, the shadows here are not ideal. Sounds like we're going to have a 5-minute intermission with Krypex going to restart his computer. So, let's see. Yeah, I was just saying that on this map, having shadows turned on is kind of a disadvantage. The whatever light adjustment that is simulated for your character, where the light is too bright with the bloom and the inside's too dark if you're outside, it's kind of an annoying feature to play with, to be honest. So most competitive players have their shadows turned off for that exact reason, which is unfortunate because it does look nice, but it plays a lot worse. And fun fact, you actually can't really edit this map in native. There's a scene edit file you would not have access to. So if you do try to edit this map, the terrain will be entirely flat. You'll have to rebuild the whole terrain, including all that stuff in the outer area outside of the map. And this part would be a lot to redo, if you think about it. So anyways, we're going to warm up for the next 5 minutes. Krypex is restarting, so nothing here really matters right now for the next few minutes. And it is a 4-4. So, any thoughts? I think this being an open map, Hancock is going to do some serious damage, and I'm wondering if Falcon is actually to play Horse Archer in the actual match. Falcon's probably one of the most unpleasant players to deal with if you're playing against him when he's on Horse Archer, because it's just very oppressive to fight against Horse Archers who know what they're doing in a very serious way. The worst one is going to be the Khuzait Heavy Cav, the Lancer with a Horse Archer bow and the glaive, if you push that heavy cav and he like switches to glaive right as you get next to him, he's gonna block your stab and then swing your horse with his glaive, and it's gonna be the worst. So I don't know. We are playing on the modded servers. It's Crusader 5's mod, competitive skirmish overhaul. So I don't know if the Crusader heavy cav is quite as oppressive on this mod as it is in native, but I imagine pretty similar. So I would not be surprised to see some horse archer gameplay. Although I think that Falcon's teammates may have something to say about it, as in against that decision. Especially with Hancock, I think that it would be a little bit unwise. Because, you know, any other cav would have a shield and could block Hancock, which would force Hancock potentially to choose between hitting the rider and the horse. But if you're a very good horse archer who's fighting a horse archer, sorry, if you're a very good archer on foot fighting a horse archer, you would kind of just aim for the legs every time. And if you miss, you hit the horse. And if you aim correctly, you hit their leg. So I think Chains, if he does go horse archer, could be arguably throwing the match. Especially the horse archer, meaning not the heavy cav, but light cav horse archer. I would not want him to, but it's not to say that he can't do something with it. It sounds like they're here now, so probably starting in less than a minute. So Am is actually subbing in for Noteglow. We're starting in 22 seconds here. So we have Hancock, Dumplings, SteveWang, Yoshie, Skirmish, and Chowski on Unknown. And Crusader 5, Am, Falcon, Crypex, Chains, and Magic, which is... Mahorga is Magic. Same guy. Fighting on Forsaken's team. And one commenter did point out that with these substitutions, it's not exactly Forsaken versus Unknown at this point, but it's kind of close. At this point, it's more of an S-tier player pickup match than it is the specific clans fighting each other, per se. You want to be very precise on who's on their clan or in their clan. Okay, so we have Nomad, Falcon, and Nomad Chains. And they have Am on Archer. Am's a very good Archer, I believe. But I'm not... I haven't played against him, so... I trust that he's going to do a good job, but... limited personal experience. They do have one throwing spear on Crypex. So we'll see if they can do anything. Cav fight is ongoing. I think the light cav on Khuzait's definitely worse, and they're fighting under the watchful eyes of Hancock. His shots are kind of obstructed by that palm tree, but not really. He's already moved out of the way of those. So 74. Actually, Falcon and Chains have gotten a lot more damage in during the cav fight than the Empire cav, which probably speaks to them being very highly skilled cav players, because they are fighting with the worst cav class by far. Khuzait cav is slower, has a shorter spear. It's not a great spot for the cav to be in. If I was the Empire, I'd want to fight in those underground areas where the cav can't do as much damage. So Chains knocks out SteveWang, and I think Steve blocks just perfectly in time. Hancock and Am are both still up. They have not managed to knock each other out yet. Alright, so who's still up? We have three first lives. Magic, Crypex, and Am are still first life. That's the Archer and 2 Infantry are still first life on Khuzait. And we have Hancock is still first life, Archer on Empire. Seems like Khuzaits are up right now. The Khuzait Infantry have to do some damage here to have a good chance of winning on their second lives, and they don't seem to have been able to do very much. Am is now being pushed by Hancock, who pulls back. Do they still have a throwing spear? I think that Crypex seemed to have dropped his throwing spear. I don't recall if he had a chance to throw it on his first life, but I imagine not. I'm kind of surprised that Hancock is pushing Am on Inv. Kind of a weird push and pull on the archers right now. Hancock pushed Am and then pulled back, and he's now running back to the infantry fight. I think in hindsight, if you could go back and do that, he probably wouldn't do the same thing. Maybe he was just trying to keep his cav alive, and if that was the goal, maybe it was successful. But he didn't really do much beyond pressuring the archer a little bit. Am goes down. Was that Am's first life? That was Am's first life, but I'd be surprised if he spawned. He doesn't respawn. So that's the first round of the second map. Let's go ahead and adjust the faction icons. Sorry about that. Forsaken's on Crusades, and we have Unknown on Empire. So I'm just adjusting that right now. And the score is 5-4 in Unknown's favor. Alright, so Hancock still an archer, which is what I expected. And we have one heavy cav, one cataphract, Scrixter, and SteveWang on cav. SteveWang with the Lancer. Does he have the mace? He does not have the mace perk. So he's not a Dragoon. We have chains, and Falcon's on heavy cav. Doesn't go horse archer. Not a surprise. To me, at least. With this enemy team. Crusade Cav is kind of late to this fight, but Am knocks out Scrixter. That's going to be really helping his team. That was a really good shot by Am. By Am to knock out Scrixter. It's going to matter a lot. And then one of the Cav goes to push. Is that the second life Cav in? I'm not sure if that was second life Cav that came in and knocked out whichever Cav was pressuring Hancock, but Hancock is still up. His team did save him from that push. That was a really good shot by Am. I think it was in a foot. It's a good spot for Hancock to be in right now. Yeah, I would not want to be Am right now, getting shot at directly overhead like that. And these are really hard shots to make, but Hancock is definitely the guy to make them. That was a really tough fight for Am, and really good shooting by Hancock. That was a crazy shot. It was a moving target, hit him in the leg. Good shooting. Alright, so most of Empire has a life right now, and Khuzits are on last. I imagine it would be hard to lose on Empire at this point. They only have 2 guys on last life. So, Forsaken on Crusades did manage to kill the first lives, but they're down 2 players. They've all taken damage, and the only person with life is Falcon, who's on Cav. I think Falcon is pushed in to do some damage. He's resetting. He does have a life, but you know, he didn't do enough damage to really have a good chance of winning at this point. Everybody on Empire is still alive, and none of them are super low as far as I can tell. Now, if Am gets some crazy shots off here, maybe Forsaken has a chance. But it seems implausible for that to happen at this point. Message retracted from somebody in chat. All right. Am's getting pushed, and he's about to get surrounded in a pincer right there. Was that a shot by... Where's that even from? Alright. So that now brings it up to 2 rounds on this half in favor of Unknown. Which brings the lead over to 6-4 in Unknown's favor. I mean, Khuzait is the worst faction by far, but this is going to be the chance for them to win. They now have 3 lives, so the Khuzait snowball might start here. Played normally, where you go Spear Infantry on both lives, you don't get 3 lives until the 3rd round. So their economy is much better this round. Oh, that's a really nasty hit for Falcon. Just unfortunate. So Chains is going to get chased down by both Cav here. That's just unlucky. But really good playing together from SteveWang and Trickster. So now that he's been knocked out once, I mean, he can't do very much. He can't play aggressively in the first fight. He's got, you know, his infantry have 3 lives, but he can't be with them in a high degree of confidence in the first 2 fights. He's probably going to try to stay in the periphery and look for an easy kill, but you see he's not going right into the fight. Did the Khuzait get knocked out in the first lives already? I might have missed the whole first fight. That was really fast. No, I think they still have not fought yet. They must be at B. This is the weirdest spot for them to be fighting. First Life Falcon is completely... is completely trapped in that area. Was that a respawn? So I think he had respawned and they pushed him in spawn because there's no safe respawn area for Khuzaits. So the Empire Unknown pushed him in spawn, knocked him out, and they're down a player entirely. That was a missed bump stab. It was close from Chains. And then Chains goes down as well. So, some extremely good team play from Empire right now. I mean, they've done better on this round, it seems like, than they did the previous first 2. And that's despite having the best eco that they're going to have on this half. On Khuzaits, that is. It was a good bump stab there. Falcon goes down on Horse Archer pretty fast there. Like, Khuzaits are kind of the worst native faction. Not impossible to win, but I wouldn't glean too much information from Forsaken losing this half. I expect that it's entirely possible that Unknown's going to perform poorly on Khuzaits as well. There's just no way for the Khuzaits to win here, but they could still do some damage. And Crypex gives the Empire Infantry a throwing spear. They don't really bother to pick it up. They already have their own javelins. It's not the best move for Crypex to be fighting here, but it just does not matter at this point. That's going to be a 3-0 in favor of Empire. Yep, that's going to bring it to a 7-4 here. I mean, they're not quite dead yet. Actually, let me go ahead and leave it at 6 for now. They haven't entirely lost the round. They are respawning. There's just no way they're going to win. Unless, you know, one player starts team killing on the enemy team on Empire. Yeah, I think Magic dropped his shield there. Kind of given up on that one. All right. Moving on to the second half here. That's 7-4 in favor of Unknown. So now we're going to see Unknown on Khuzaits and Forsaken on Empire. That's the wrong flag. No, it's actually the right flag, sorry. Okay. So I think Forsaken has a chance to even up the score here. Now, I think that, you know, realistically, there's 2 possible outcomes here. Forsaken could win the first round and deny the Khuzaits an early snowball effect, in which case the real round that will determine who wins or not will be the third round, where, assuming Forsaken keeps up some basic momentum, they should be significantly favored for the first 2 rounds. And in the third round, it's going to be the hardest one for them to beat the Khuzaits, where the Khuzaits will have 3 lives. I think that Forsaken, could throw or get unlucky before then, and then Unknown would take away with a very wide lead if they can establish the Khuzait snowball early. And then alternatively, if Unknown wins the first round and they establish the Khuzait snowball really early, then the total score at the very end could be very broad. This could be a very close game where maybe Forsaken wins 2, it's like, 7-6, and then they either have a chance to draw, or they lose by a couple rounds, or if the Khuzaits start winning on the first round, it's going to secure their eco, and they're going to have possibly just an early economy lead, and they might be able to spawn 3 lives next round, if their infantry stays alive to the very end. You'll notice this is obviously not native. This armor is not present on native. This is the competitive skirmish overhaul armor for chains. It looks great. It's a very, very pretty armor. It's the scale armor for Empire. So first fight is happening on top of B, next to A. Empire needs to win to not give the Khuzaits an early snowball. Like, this is kind of their round to win. Am knocks out Magic on it. It's a good shot. Empire's up right now. They need to keep that lead. Am gets a crazy shot in on Steve's back, which allows his cavalry to remount on Empire. And 2 Empire infantry go down at almost the exact same time. And this fight was looking favored to the Empire for a second, and then that just went away. So I think we have 2 first lives still on Khuzaits. Everybody in Empire's on last life. So depending on how much damage they take here, finishing off these first lives, it's going to... That was a good, important kill for Am to get. Where did he even get that from? I'm not sure still. I presume it was somewhere lower. Oh, it was a javelin. I didn't realize that. I thought Am was still an archer. They have 2 bows on Khuzaits right now. It's a lot of range weapons here. And Strixter knocks out Krypex, who is shooting down. Falcon goes down. This is looking bad for Empire right now. Oh wow, that bump kill on chains. Empire might still win here. That was a very close shot from Hancock. It's actually a 3v3. I didn't realize that they still had a... Whoever respawned was that? I'm not sure. I guess the Cav still had a life when he died. Missed bump shot there. Or bump stab, rather. Crazy good bump stab from Skrixter. Wow. So now it's Crusader 5 versus 2 very good Cav players. He's going to have to push out in the open if he's playing for morale. I think that they're going to try to push him before that happens, just due to impatience. Alright, wow. Well, let's see. Now, that does give, at this point, unless they play for a third map, Unknown has pretty much won the match overall. Even if the Forsaken guys win 3 rounds in a row, it could bring them only up to a 8-7. So at this point, they're playing to reduce how much they lose by. They still can't really win. Unless there's going to be a third map, which I don't think that there will be. So Falcon and Chains on Empire Cav. And presume that the other Crusade Cav went to B. 1 Lancer, 1 Nomad. Skirmish's on Nomad. SteveWang's on Lancer. Same as last time. 2v2 Cav duel on B. Neither pairs of cavalry are in the infantry fight, which is ongoing right now. Crusader 5 knocks out Yoshie, so that's 1 down on Crusades. Hancock gets pushed down and immediately stabs before he even finishes falling to the ground. I think this fight's going the way of Empire, but not by a huge margin. And actually, they cleaned up. They have 3 infantry alive, and I don't see any infantry still up on Crusades. Now, when I mentioned that this Crusade snowball could get established early, that would require the Crusade infantry to stay alive, not just win the round. So even though they did win the first round, because they all died, it doesn't give them the eco advantage early on yet. It was a good shot from Am on Hancock. Applying kind of insane pressure on Hancock, which is what you'd expect for them to want to do. Strixer does a good job of killing that Cav who was chasing Hancock down. The fight is kind of orbiting around the archer, and he does stay alive. I think the reason for that is basically... Oh my god, that's a crazy bump stab there. He didn't even have to get bump stabbed, it was just the bump killed him. I mean, the reason for that pressure on the archer is pretty clear. Somebody like Hancock has enough damage per seconds that you can't really allow him to be ignored in a fight if you don't want to lose it. Was that Chains? Yeah, it was Chains. Alright, a comeback from Empire / Forsaken. They can't win, but they can't even quite draw, but they can reduce the degree of defeat to a single match or single round overall. Okay, so wait, did one team go 2-2-2? Oh, they did. Crusades went 2-2-2. Alright, well the cavalry fight is ongoing at B. Crusades are pushing up this hill. Kind of split. You got 1 infantry on these 2 archers. Probably not going to be enough. Chains knocks out one of the Crusade Cav pretty early on. Does he come back in right away? Or is it somebody else? He did come back in right away when he spawned. Hancock gets a crazy horse archer kill on Falcon. And another crazy horse archer kill from... Is that Hancock again? On Krypex? Those are really good blocks from Am. But those hits were simultaneous, so there's not a lot you could do. Okay, so... Kuzits have 3 guys with lives. Empire's got everybody down to their last life. I think Kuzits have a good chance of winning this round, but not a guarantee. Two horse archers. One's an actual horse archer. One is a mounted archer. Kuzits have 4 cav right now, which is crazy. So they have... There are rules. 2 archers and 2 cav. But they have... What is it? Is that mounted infantry? So they have the mounted archer, Hancock, shooting behind them on the ramp. Dueling Am. And you have... This is mounted infantry, I believe. Mounted infantry archer. And you have the actual nomad. And the other one is also a nomad, I believe. Crazy crossfire with these 2 horse archers on either end of the tunnel. Dumplings is not very fast as a mounted archer. Getting chased down by at least 1 cav. One's coming to help him. I mean, I was thinking that Kuzits had a very good chance to win, but they might be throwing it here. Crusader 5, is that mounted Empire infantry? That is. There's honestly a lot more horse archer gaming in this round than there has been in any of the previous ones. Okay, that's 2 rounds for Forsaken on this half. So let's update the description. It's the second map, not the first map. Alright, so it's 8 seconds to the next start. This is the score. He's got 1,044 score for Crusader 5 on Empire / Forsaken. 746 score for Chains, and we have the same composition for Empire. Pretty much. Still on a 2-2-2 for Kuzits. Dumpling and Hancock on Archer, Scrickster and SteveWang on Cav. Empire Cav is running through the spawn for the Kuzits, looking for any easy picks or AFKs, apparently. I don't know. Both archers are on the ramp, and that was a good shot by Hancock. Probably saves Dumpling from a nasty hit. They're doing a very good job of supporting each other and preventing Cav from getting any easy hits in. That was another really good shot from Hancock here. That was a crazy over-the-shoulder shot from his teammate. He's about to get hit, though. Ooh, and that nasty. So, did I say Hancock? This whole time it's been Dumplings. I started expecting Hancock, but Dumplings was kind of the fire support for Hancock. Dumplings is getting all the score that he's been getting in this half on this round. So, that was a very good fight for Kuzits. They definitely have lives at this point, and Empire just really doesn't. They have 3 guys with respawns, and everybody on Kuzits has a respawn. They have, what is it, 3 cav at this point? One of them's got to be on an archer, I think, which is Hancock. Ooh, that's going to be misplay. He dropped a bow for magic. He was either going to pick it up, despawn it, or, I don't know. He doesn't have time to. I can't tell if it was a bump stab from SteveWang, but it was a good hit either way. That was a good stab, too. Good kill from Crusader 5 on Dumpling. Is this Chains? Who's this? It's SteveWang. Chains is on Crusader's team, so I don't know why I asked that question. We got Am. So we got 2 guys in Empire down. We still have 2 respawns available for Khuzaits if they want to use them to respawn Rabble. It's weird because we have 3 of the guys alive on Empire do have respawns, but Magic and Falcon are out. I mean, actually, Empire has respawns, Khuzaits don't. Maybe it's winnable for Empire if they do damage here. They have to do real damage. They have to kill at least 1 person. Alright, Crypex goes down. Crusader 5 goes down, Am goes down. I think 1 Khuzait got knocked out. 1 of them has a respawn, and you got 2 guys in Empire. And they're fighting for the last round. They had to spawn, even though they're probably not going to win. Am and these guys are both at this end of the tunnel. Alright guys, please ignore the death threats in the in-game chat. Whoa. Might need to cover that up. Alright, did I leave that round win indicator up for the whole time? Oopsies. Alright, so that is another round for Khuzaits. I think I might have lost track of the count at some point here. Let's see, what was it? Alright, so we got which composition? It's now a 2-2-2 on Empire. Crusader 5 is on Archer, I think for the first time on this half. And same thing for Khuzaits. 2-2-2 composition. Right. 1 inf dismount on each team. Alright, Yoshie kills Magic. It's 1 down on an Empire. Upstairs. A lot of duels going on right now. Not a lot of group fighting. Good shot by Am there on the Khuzait Kev. Is this guy trickling back in? I think he's second life. Is that Magic? Yeah, I think Magic was the first one to die. He comes back in. This first fight is taking place over such a wide area in such a long time that it's hard to tell who's even winning. A pretty big kill on Am there. It's been almost a continuous series of fights in this back area here. You can't even tell what's going on all the time because they're across 2 walls and a roof. Khuzait seem to be up by a significant margin right now. Alright, to state the obvious, Unknown is picking up at least 2 rounds on Crusades, and they won 3-0 in there on Empire. So, when you think about the overall progression of rounds here, we had, if I'm not mistaken, can't remember if it was a 3-2 or 3-1 in the very first half, where you had Unknown was on Botania, and Forsaken was on Glandia. If I recall correctly, that was the case. And then it ended up being a 3-1, which I believe even the score, and it ended up being a 4-1 for both teams. Sorry, not a 4-4 for both teams. And then we had a 7-4 when Unknown won 3 rounds in Empire, with Forsaken on Empire. It was a 7-4. And should be at a 9-6 right now, because it's a 2-2 at this point. I was just stepping through it to make sure it didn't fail to increment the scoreboard. I think the score is currently correct. Their Crypex goes down from Yoshie. Alright, so well played from both teams. And very, very highly skilled players on both sides. Final score. Here it is, guys. 2,000 score for Trickster, 1.3k for Hancock, 1.8k score for Crusader. So, yeah, I mean, that was looking to be a likely Unknown win pretty early on. But I think that that only became somewhat obvious once Unknown was picking up rounds on Crusades, where Forsaken just didn't on this map. So I think that's going to be it for the stream for tonight, guys.